Well, welcome to your journey. I'm your host, Chuck Lewis, and we got a special guest with us today, and Jason Montgomery, aka J Mont. What's going on, man?
Not much, man. How you doing?
I'm doing well, man. I'm glad you came on the show, man. Appreciate you doing that.
Thanks for having me, man.
Nah, appreciate it. So obviously we've been in this COVID-19, dealing with this pandemic, a lot of changes. How have you and your family adjusted with everything?
Everybody's doing well. It actually was a chance for us to kind of bond and come closer together because, with work and school and football schedule for my son, it was kind of like we was on a schedule. So we got a chance to kind of just hang out together, be around each other all the time, get on each other's nerves a little bit. So, get back to the basics, have game night and everything, stuff because we had to entertain ourselves. So, it's giving us a chance to become closer together. So.
Yeah, I mean, it gave everybody a chance to pause,
Right.
and kind of get back to the basics, just spending time with family, pulling out the games, the monopolies and things of that nature. Connect Four, I got better with Connect Four, battling with the family on that. But no, that's good, man. I'm glad everybody's transitioning well, and that's all we're doing right now. I guess my next question is like, will we get back to normal, or do you think there will be like a new normal?
I think it'll be a new normal. It'll be something we have to adjust to. My fiance, she's a teacher, so they're trying to work around how they're going to have the classroom set up. If they're even going to be in school full time. Like, I know some plans were saying go a couple days and then be off a couple days. So I don't really know. I know our governor said she wants everybody to social distance in school, which is going to be hard here. Inner city, you got teachers who got 25, 30 kids. Like, I don't know how you can space them out in one classroom. So it's definitely going to be a new normal, I think, at least until they can kind of get under control, maybe a vaccine and, get it down to where maybe it's like the flu or something.
No, I definitely agree. I definitely think we're going to have to adjust and kind of figure out life doing it a new way with our day-to-day routine. Well, let's get right into it, man. So you grew up in Detroit, Michigan. What was it like growing up in Detroit, the D, as a kid?
Oh, man, I loved it. Like, it's different nowadays, but I loved it. We were outside playing all the time. It wasn't no sitting on a video game. You did that when it was raining or something. Other than that, you was outside all day. You didn't come in until dark. If you came in, you stayed in. So, I loved it. It taught me a lot. Really molded me because, being in the inner city, you got to you got to stand up for yourself. You got to fight. You can't just let people walk over you. So, it kind of gives you a little heart. You got to have a little fight in you. So, it's a blessing and a curse. You can learn from it, or you can go down the wrong path and it's a curse. So, I had a good upbringing where I stayed away from that stuff. And, at times I felt like it wasn't fair. I couldn't go do certain stuff with my friends. But, when you get older, you realize, you could have been down that path where it takes one mistake or one wrong decision and, everything's different for you. So, but I loved it, man. I loved it.
So you've been an athlete pretty much your whole life. What age did you start playing sports?
I started my first team. I was in the third grade. I was 8, and it was I was at a private school at the time, so it was like a K through 8, and I didn't tell them what grade I was in, and I actually made the middle school team. Me and like one of the other kids, I think he was like in the 5th grade, but we made the middle school team. And then I was like, well, I'm in the 3rd grade, like I'm just kind of short, so but they let me stay on the team. I didn't really get no playing time, but I got to practice. I got to play with older kids, which really taught me how to like hold my own. Like when you get to high school, it's gonna be kids 3-4 years older than you maybe, so you got to be able to play with them. So I learned that at a very, very young age. So I was 8 when I started playing like organized sports.
Okay. So growing up as a kid, your dad was a pastor. Talk about how that influenced you as a young man.
Oh man, it was tough. It was really tough because I had a whole different set of rules. There wasn't any rap music, obviously. Couldn't even do R&B. Like it was, the only thing that you could listen to that wasn't gospel music was, your old school stuff like, Marvin Gaye or something like that. That kind of just was like, maybe talking about love and build up. But other than that, couldn't go off the block as a kid. Like, you know, other people went off the block, couldn't go off the block. I had to have organ practice before I even went outside. I was in church all of the time. I was in church 4 times a week. You know, you 19 years old, you're like, I mean, why am I here all the time? Right. But, you know, I really learned a lot from it. You know, it's still with me to this day, you know, even through playing sports, going through college, like I always put God first and, you know, said my prayers and, you know, it still guides me today. So yeah. It turned out to be a good thing.
Served as a good foundation for you as you was able to transition throughout your life that you could always go back to. Well, you attended Southfield Latham High School. What was your experience like there as a student and as an athlete?
It was a little different for me because, like I said, I grew up in the inner city. So I moved out to Southfield, which is like a suburb of Detroit. And I moved out in the 8th grade. I moved out there. So, you know, getting adjusted to, you know, seeing different kind of people. Like, you know, my school was all black. Like it was, you might have, you know, some other minorities there, but it was all black. So moving out to Southfield, which is a suburb, it was kind of like 50-50. So, you know, it was a little different. I went out there with a whole mindset of like, you know, I'm from Detroit. Like, you know, I'm about to come running this stuff. I'm about to come running this. Y'all soft out here and everything. So, you know, it was different because obviously when I got out there, it was, you know, people just like me who's just from the city and they, you know, it was the same way. So, you know, I learned a lot, kind of prepared me for college life because I was able to see different cultures and things like that. And, you know, I played sports. So you meet a lot of people, you're known around school. So, you know, it was cool. I enjoyed it there. Friends I still have to this day.
No, that's good. So let's talk a little bit more about sports. So as a junior, you start to gain some success on the basketball court as well as on track and field. You earn all state honors in the 4x4 and the 4x2. How did it feel to achieve that accomplishment?
Oh, man, it felt good because, you know, really going throughout high school, basketball was my sport. I didn't really care about anything else. You know, I did other things kind of just to make me better in basketball. So to have that success in track was really big for me. Like it really started to push me in like I could do other things. Like I don't have to limit myself to one thing. You know, I felt like I was always a good athlete. You know, it was time to kind of venture off into some other things and keep my options open. So it was good. You know, I enjoyed it.
So in your senior year, you decided to play football and have instant success. Now, how did this all come about? You never played football, if I'm not mistaken, ever before. And then your senior year, you decide, hey, you know what? I'm going to go out and play full contact football for the first time. How did that all come about?
It was different because I was one of them cats that I was always good, I felt, but I never wanted to get hit. That was the only reason why I really didn't play football. Like I never wanted to get hit. I was always built kind of little, so I was like, nah, I'm gonna stay away from that. Like I'm pretty physical enough for basketball. I'm gonna do that. But you know, one of my first friends when I moved out to the Southfield area was a guy who played football. He actually ended up going to Central Michigan on a scholarship. But you know, he kept telling me, man, come on, come play. And I'm like, no, I'm good. And you know, he told the coach about me and the coach kind of, you know, stayed on my head about, you know, come on out, like. It's a good way to get a scholarship to college. Like I'll get you. He was really known for like getting kids in school. I mean, he had like all the tricks in the book, putting stuff in your shoes so you look taller when the scouts came. Like he had all the tricks. So he was like, you know, if you come out, I'll do my best, and I feel like I can get you in school somewhere. And so I was like, hey, I'm gonna give it a shot because I needed a scholarship. I didn't want that pressure of paying for school and, you know, putting that burden on my parents' back. So I really wanted to earn a scholarship. And basketball at the time wasn't really looking all that positive that I was going to get one.
Nah, that's good, man. And you actually ended up fulfilling the plan that you set out to do. You did end up getting a scholarship and you committed to the University of Akron. What made you commit there and what other schools were looking at you?
Well, at the time, how I kind of got on Akron's map, I was in that summer going into my senior year, we went up there for a 7-on-7 camp, and I did, you know, really well. And the coach at the time that was recruiting the Detroit area was Paul Winters, and he was the offensive coordinator. And I kind of got on this map then, and they were the first to really give me opportunity and stay with me, have me up for visits and everything. And I got a late offer from Toledo, but at that time, Akron was a little farther away. I kind of wanted to get out of the city. Toledo's really only like 45 minutes from, my hometown. So I kind of wanted to get away. And Akron was one of the first people to like offer me and stay with me. So that's trying to deciding to go.
So you coming from Detroit and you go to Northeast Ohio. Talk to me about what that first year was like, transitioning from a different environment academically and athletics.
It was different, man, because going to college, a lot of people don't understand how much freedom you have.
Yeah.
And, that was tough for me. I'm not going to lie. I was in this structure where it was like you got to stay on top of everything. If you don't get the grades, you don't play, all of that. So when I got up to school and it was like, hey, you got 3 classes today. And I'm like, oh, 3? Like, yeah, I don't really got to go to the first. Like, you kind of get on that path where you have a rough practice and you like, I'm tired. I got meetings later. Like, I'm going to get a nap before I go. So it was definitely an adjustment academically. So I just kind of had to buckle down, and I didn't want to, they tell you like you're coming in with 25 people and you'll be a good thing if 5 of you graduate. So that kind of sticks with you. Like, this ain't a given. Like I come here and I just go through the motions and make it through. Like you really got to put in the work. And there was no coming home. So it was no getting kicked out of school, failing out. It was none of that. So I hit a point where I had to just like buckle down and lock down on the academics.
Nah, it's good. So in your redshirt freshman year, you don't receive a lot of playing time. Where were you at mentally just with football and everything at that point in time?
I mean, it was tough. I was really ready to like call my coach and, have him look for somewhere for me to transfer. There were a couple things that transpired with the coaches that was there, the head coach at the time, where he really didn't, want me there. I wasn't a 6'1", 190-pound receiver. So he was looking at me like, what is this? This kid doesn't even deserve to be here. Like, why is he here? So, I called my mom and was like, Ma, I'm transferring. I'm calling my coach. Like, I'm transferring somewhere else. I'm not playing here. And, she told me, being religious, pray on it. We're going to pray for you. Pray that things kind of turn around for you. You keep doing what you need to do. You don't slack off of that because of whatever the coach is saying. You know who you are. Hey. So you stay true to yourself, and, you keep working and pray on it. So, that's what I did. And, things turned around for me. So
yeah, things definitely turned around for you. So you go in your redshirt sophomore year, you enter camp at the bottom of the depth chart. And then by the end of camp, you get to the top of the depth chart. And by the first game, you become a starter. Talk about how you were able to stay motivated through all those tough times and still stay determined to get and reach your goals.
I mean, really, it boils down to, one, the game started to slow down for me. So it wasn't as fast. I started to really feel like I belonged there. I was looking at opportunities that I had, not really like, oh, I'm third string. I looked at, hey, I'm going against the first team D. I'm going to do something where they remember me. And I kind of started carrying myself that way. The people who, I lived with at the time, you being one, Vince, Tay, like all you guys kind of told me, like, you just got to stay with it. Like, you're good. You got talent. Like, just stay with it. It'll work out. They gonna see it. And a couple of the first stringers on defense will come to me like, man, look, we was watching film the other day and coach, like the DB coach was talking about you. Like, keep it up, man. Like, you gonna get your shot. Trust me. Like, they starting to see it. So at that point, I started to get the confidence and I started to play with the confidence. So I just really buckled down and really looked at it like, this is my shot. Like, this is my chance to, kind of get my foot in the door.
And to go a little deeper, you talked about the game slowing down. For some of the younger people maybe watching, like, what do you actually mean by that when the game starts to slow down for you?
It starts to move in a slower – like, when you get out there and you're not prepared, it seems like everything's flying around. Like, people is you're trying to read defenses and you're looking at a guy like, man, why is he running out here so fast? And it just kind of it slows down. You see what's going on, and you start to read what people are doing. So you see if this guy is buzzing out to the flats, okay, who's going to replace him? Nobody replaced him. That's the open area of the zone. So it just got to a point where I really buckled down in film and started to understand defenses more and what they were trying to do and what they wanted to take away. And I was able to, kind of read that and play my game accordingly.
So just as soon as you started getting some success, at the end of that redshirt sophomore year, the coaching staff gets fired, right? And so going into that upcoming spring, a new coaching staff comes in, and J.D. Brookhart. Talk about that transition with dealing with the new coaching staff, and how was that first semester in dealing with that new coaching staff?
It was really hard because at the end of that season, I actually tore my meniscus. So I think it was like 2 games left. I tore my meniscus. So I was going to be coming off an injury. I was going to be the leading receiver coming back. So I really had this mindset of I got to get myself back. I looked at the people who were in my age, in my year, and was younger, and I really had to lead by example. So I played with 3 other seniors, and, I kind of followed their coattail, and now it was on me. And I was coming off an injury, and I had to learn a new playbook. So it was tough. It was tough, and they pushed me. They wanted to get their system, and they pushed you hard. So it was hard, and I was trying to adjust to it, and I didn't want to let anybody down because I was kind of looked at as like, oh, it's your time now. So I really didn't want to let anybody down, and it was a lot of pressure.
So your junior season comes around and you perform well. You had caught over 40 balls that year. You had over 450 yards receiving, 4 touchdowns. What preparation went into that year? Like you talked about kind of being a younger guy the year before and making some plays there, but you had seniors around you. What went into that year for you to be one of the leading receivers on the team that year?
I really I took a big step in my preparation. Like, I was always in the film room. I was always a little guy, so I really wanted to know where I needed to be. I learned all the positions. I wanted to give my coaches flexibility. I didn't want them to be like, this next receiver coming in, we got to put him here. I wanted them to move me around and put, people like Jabari or whoever where they felt they would be best.
Wow.
That way our team could be better. So I kind of wanted to stay flexible, and wherever they needed me, I knew I was a starter. I knew I was a leader. Like, I was going to do whatever. I was going to get a block for somebody. I really wanted to win at that point. We really hadn't had much success. So I really wanted a MAC championship, and I really wanted to reach that goal, especially that year for the seniors, because we had guys like Charlie Fry and, some other cats that I looked up to. And I really wanted to, do what I could to help us get to that point.
So you talk about Charlie Fry, and he was a senior that year in 2004. What was it like playing with Charlie Fry?
Oh, man, it was great. It was great. Like, sometimes you get used to somebody and you kind of take them for granted. Like, I learned so much from playing with Charlie. I learned really how to do things outside of the playbook. There was time he would come to me like, I know you're a clear out, but hey, if that backside safety jump it, go ahead and post it across the field. And I'm like, but I got to clear out. Like, I'm gonna get yelled at in film session. You're Charlie. You can do whatever. I'm gonna get yelled at. He's like, trust me, do it. And I kind of, at that point, with knowing all the positions, I learned how just to get on the same page with him. And we had great chemistry. A lot of the plays that I made wasn't part of the playbook. Like, it just wasn't. It wasn't part of the playbook. And I knew how to get around and get to certain areas, and without hindering what the play wants to accomplish. So,
yeah. So you talk about chemistry. Walk me through the Marshall game. So you guys were down by 21 points in the fourth quarter, and 2 of the last 3 touchdowns, you scored those. A lot of it was due to chemistry. Right. Charlie Fry scrambling around, Jay Mont makes a couple big-time catches. Walk me through actually that last touchdown, the game-time touchdown, what you were thinking, what happened, and what made you make the decisions you made to make the plays you did.
Well, that kind of piggybacks on what I just said. I was nowhere near in the play. Like it was, I want to say it was like a 4th and 12 or something on a play. I was in the slot. I had a 5 yard where I was going to go up 5 yards, sit for a second, and then go out to the flat. And my whole job was to draw that safety out to
Mm,
clear the hook right behind it for the 12 yards that we needed for the first down.
mm.
I did that, and as soon as I did that, I turned up field. I wasn't sitting in the flat. As soon as I did it, I turned up field and went towards the end zone. So when I went towards the end zone, Charlie was kind of like in some trouble, scrambling and everything. I was on the right side of the field, so I ran across right to left, the back of the end zone, and the guy was like shadowing me. He was like all over me. And before I crossed the end zone, I stopped and cut back, and Charlie had already threw it. I couldn't even see him at the time. I didn't even know what was going on. I knew he was rolling. By the time I stopped and cut back to go to the right side of the field, the ball was already in the air. It was like a 35-yard pass, and by the time I got to the corner of the end zone, it was right there on the money. 2 feet in bounds. It was close to me being out of bounds. So the first thing, I still got this picture. The first thing I do, jump up, pointing at the ground to the ref. He called touchdown.
Remember that?
We're all going crazy. Like, so, it was wild. My parents was at the game. Like it was really big.
Yeah, I think that touches on what you talked about earlier. The game's starting to slow down. So you're starting to
Right.
kind of see things before they happen. And the game starts to slow down even more. In your senior year, we open up against Purdue, and you
Yeah.
probably have one of the better games in Akron history for a receiver. You had 5 catches for 154 yards, 3 touchdowns, which a team that was ranked, I think, ninth in the country that year, one of the top
Yeah.
defenses in the country that year. What went into that game that you were able to have such a dominant performance?
I mean, the year before we were on the verge of, winning the MAC championship.
Mhm.
We finished our last game was against Miami, Ohio. It kind of was like the play in for the championship game. We lost that. We thought we were going to a bowl game. Some things transpired where we didn't make a bowl game. So it was like that whole off season was just different. Like it was different. It was like we gotta, take advantage of every opportunity we have. We gotta make statements, whether we're going out here planning to win this game, but if we lose it, it's got to be a fight, no matter what. Like they got to know who we are. They got to understand that this team is not playing. So, that whole off season, just pretty much train like that, practice like that. My whole mindset was different. Didn't have as many like tough classes academically, so I was able to really focus on football a little bit more, and I just put like everything into it going into that senior year.
Well, yeah, I mean, and obviously it turned out successful. Your senior year, the Zips going to win the MAC championship, first time ever in school history. How did it feel to achieve that accomplishment?
Man, it was great. Like it was, I mean, it was one of them things where you just felt the love from everybody. It wasn't, guys who had graduated already, they were proud of us. It wasn't like, yeah, y'all did it, but we were still a better team than y'all. Like everybody really just got behind us and embraced us. So it felt like not only were we making our place in history of the school, it was like, y'all helped us build this. So it was like a testament to, the guys who came before us that we were able to get good guys in there and good recruits and, coaches. And, it was just, it was a surreal feeling, man. It was, surreal. I didn't win a state title. I didn't. So, like, it was my first real title. Like, and it felt great, man.
That's good. And so it got even better that following spring in 2006. You graduate with your degree in child development. How did it feel to walk across the stage?
Man, it was great because honestly, in my immediate family, I was the youngest. My mom, she didn't finish college. My dad, you know, he had to drop out of school when he was young and kind of like take care of his brothers and sisters. So I have two older brothers. Neither one of them made it through. And I was the last one. And then I was the first one to graduate. So
Yeah.
it was really big for my family. It meant a lot to like my family. And, just kind of not breaking the curse, but just showing, my nieces and nephews like, hey,
Yeah.
it's not over at the high school. You guys can go to college and get a degree and, pursue your dreams, basically.
That's good. So you graduate from college. And so you have to move back to Detroit after graduation. Talk about what life was like transitioning from being a student athlete, being a college student to the real world.
It sucked. Like it sucked because, you know, you graduate and at the time they tell you like, oh, you get a degree, you'll be good. Like, you know, nobody was hiring. I had to move back in with my parents. I'm coming from college where I have all this freedom, and now I'm back in this, you know, household where it's like, you know, no, you come in at this time. I'm like, there's times where I ain't come home. Like, like, what do you mean I gotta be home at this time? Like, so it was an adjustment, and it was really rough. Like, you go, you put all this work in, you get a degree, and you're expected like opportunities to open up for you, and you know, it just wasn't the case.
Yeah. So you eventually get an opportunity working in the social work field. How did that all come about for you?
At the time, I was coaching high school football, helping out my coach who coached me in high school, and I got a job at Lifetime Fitness. So I was working there, and one of the guys who owned a mental health facility was like, you know, I think you would be good working with some kids. Like, you know, why don't you come in for an interview? And then he found out my degree was in child development, and he was like, you know, you ain't got to tell me anything else. You got the job. Like, you know, I think you'll be great. I've seen you interact with people here. You know, you'll be great. So that's kind of how I got in the social work field.
So in 2010, you transitioned into another role and becoming a father. What was that like, transitioning into becoming a father, walking into fatherhood, never having any kids before? Talk about that transition.
Man, it was great, but it also was scary. Like, because now you're looking at it like, okay, now you have to mold this young thing and, you know, raise them up in the right way and protect them, you know, take care of them. So it was scary. But like with anything, it's a challenge. And, you know, you always want to take on the challenge and just do everything you can do to be the best at it. So, you know, that was my goal. Just, you know, anything he needed, anything he wanted, anything he needed to know or learn, I wanted to, you know, guide him in the right way.
Yeah, so in 2016, you decided to go back to school and pursue nursing. What inspired you to go back to school?
It was a dream of mine. It always was. You know, due to my athletic career, I wasn't able to do it in college. You know, they pretty much basically told me like, hey, you can't do this still. Like, sorry. Like, I'm not saying that you're not smart enough to do it and go to school and play football, but you got practice these times, your clinical hours, all of those things, you won't be able to fulfill them. So it was sad at the time because that's what I really wanted to do. But then at the same time, it's like I want to play in the league, so I'm going to do everything on this side that I need to do to make it there. So, you know, throughout, you know, graduating and working, it's like you know you're not happy somewhere. Like, you know it's something else that you want to do. You know you're probably called to do something else. And, you know, at that point in 2016, it just was like, you know what? It's going to be tough. You know, my son's a little older, but, you know, you're going to have to work full time and go back to school because this is what you want to do. Like, you just got to do it.
Yeah, so to kind of go a little bit more in detail with that. So at that point, you have a family, you're managing your career, and you're in school. How are you able to have work-life balance with everything going on?
You got to truly be dedicated. You got to be dedicated and got to be disciplined because, I mean, with having a family and working full time, that's hard. Now you got to find time for school, and then you also have to study. Like, you're learning a whole new field. Like, so it's not like, oh, you know, I'm gonna do what I need to do to get through. Nah, you gotta really dedicate yourself and be disciplined. You gotta study even though you're tired. Friends can't be like, hey, you know, we're gonna get together and have a hangout. You gotta be like, man, I can't make it. And honestly, for the time being, that it took me to finish, I was pretty much away from everybody else. And everybody was just kind of like, oh, man, we'd be happy when you're done. But you just got to stay true to it. So it was tough. It was tough, but it took a lot of work, which made it even more fulfilling.
So that all paid off for you, and you were actually fulfilled. This past May, you graduated with your degree in nursing. How did it feel to achieve that goal, man?
Honestly, it felt better than graduating from college. Like, it was, you know, you grow up, you learn new things, and to balance what I did, it was even more of an accomplishment for me. on top of the fact it's what I really wanted to do. So it was like, I can't even explain it. Like it was like winning the MAC championship, but I can really sit and just enjoy it. Like I can sit and enjoy it and know that like I'm doing something that I really wanted to do.
And I think also to go along with that too, the challenge of going back for nursing, once you become like a nurse, I mean, you can't make no mistakes. Like in basketball or football, it's like you could drop a ball, you can miss 5 shots in a row. Yeah. You can't mess up taking somebody's blood pressure multiple times, right?
There's no my bad coach.
Right.
There's none of that.
Right. And then the amount of science courses and things that you had to go back and take. And so it just showed that your resiliency and patience and determination kicked in for you. So we're going to transition to the last part of the show. It's called Top 5. So I got 5 categories for you. You give me your top 5. So we'll start off with the first one. So over the years, I got a chance to know you pretty well. You're a big fan of hip hop. So who are your top 5 hip hop rappers of all time?
Definitely gotta go with Tupac. He's my favorite. He's all the way at the top of the list.
All right.
Tupac, Biggie, of course, Jay-Z. Kind of came up on him. New school, Drake. Like I feel like Drake can hold his own pretty much with any of them guys.
Yeah, he can.
Drake and I mean, I'm from Detroit, so I gotta say Eminem. I'd be wrong if I didn't. So I gotta go with Eminem.
Nah, I mean Eminem and all the other guys you named are first ballot Hall of Famers on anybody's list. So that's a good 5 right there. So since you played wide out, give me your top 5 wide receivers of all time.
Jerry Rice.
Jerry Rice, okay.
Randy Moss, one of my favorites. Calvin Johnson, another Detroit connection. Terrell Owens, and one of my favorites now, Julio Jones.
Okay. Another good 5 as well. So you were a basketball guy growing up. Pretty much from a young age to the end of high school for you. Give me your top 5 NBA players of all time.
Gotta go MJ. I love LeBron, but I gotta go MJ first. Then I'll go LeBron. Okay. Next is my favorite, AI, Allen Iverson. Of course, a lot of debates with Jamie Goodwin about that one. AI, Magic, and then I'll probably say Wilt.
Okay, good 5 for sure. So you like to travel as well. So give me your top 5 places you ever visited.
Puerto Rico by far was the best place I've ever been. It was beautiful. That was definitely one of the best. So I would say Puerto Rico, Vegas. I feel like it's a second home for me. Yeah. Miami. Love the beaches, love the scenery. So Miami, LA. And Toronto. Toronto is really beautiful.
Yeah, all those places I got a chance to go to, except for Puerto Rico. But those are definitely some great places to vacation or visit and have fun. So for the last question I got for you, give me your top 5 movies of all time.
Whoa. Top 5 movies, I'm going to say Coming to America. That's like at the top of my list. Coming to America.
That's a classic.
Juice, grew up on Juice, a lot of lines back in college.
Yeah.
New Jack City. Maybe I'll go with Higher Learning. That's classic. Higher Learning, and then a funny one, House Party.
Oh man, yeah, them is all classics right there.
My movie.
Yeah, I mean, them is all classics right there. Late '80s, early '90s movies, man.
It's kind of crazy that those are all my movies too. Nothing but 2000s. All the stuff you grew up on.
Right, and I like the Higher Learning too. Most people don't know about that movie. That's one of those movies, man. That was like a sleeper. That when it came out, it was pretty good, but like most people don't remember that movie. Right. But I mean,
and it's crazy because you can look at it now, like a lot of. It's kind of like the story of what's going on now too.
Sure, yeah, and it was pretty much before its time. Talking about what was going on then, it's still kind of going on now. And so, well, I appreciate you going through the top 5 segments. So we're at the end of the show. One of the things that I want to say is, man, I appreciate you coming on. But more importantly, man, part of this show is also giving people an opportunity to tell their story. But the other part is giving people their crown while they're alive, man. And I think, man, just knowing you for over the years, man, you've done some amazing things, whether it was you working with the youth back in Detroit, whether it was you being just a good friend. and being a guy that was resilient. I think that's the word for you on your path, is being resilient, being determined and just having patience. All the things that you kind of went through as a player, you started out and it didn't work out the way you wanted to, but you hung in there and stuck it through. And you ended up coming in as a guy that they were unsure about, to being one of our better players on our team and making some plays in Akron history that have never been made before. You had one of the better days up at Purdue against a Big Ten team. I don't know if any receivers had that type of day there. There were some things that you did there that were landmarks, and you set a trend for the small guys coming through Akron. And just, I think, all the things that you've done at this point, being a great father, you getting ready to get married and everything like that. So you truly have turned into a great man, you know what I mean? And giving a great foundation for your kids, man. So just wanted to make sure that we salute you, give you your crown while you're alive, and thank you for coming on, man, the show.
Oh, man, thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate it. Like I said, coming up with the guys that I came up with in college, we all kind of kept each other together and looked out for each other and made sure we didn't go down the wrong path. So, a lot of that goes to guys like you, hey, man, Jay, come on, get up there, do what you got to do.
Right.
Everybody kind of can just fall into that path like, nah, you good. So, you definitely, don't know what you did for people like me along the way. And, I greatly appreciate it.
Yeah. No, and I think one of the things that you bring up, too, is huge, man, how we checked on one another. That was rare. Yeah. And I think it was rare for us, like me, you, Vince, and Monte, and Kiki and Devanzo and all the guys we were around, we all kind of checked on each other. Jay Good, when he was there, we just checked on one another. And if we walked in and seen a guy knowing that he had class and was still asleep, we had to ask questions of like, hey, what are you doing? And that's what it's about, man. And it's about, building the bond, but holding each other accountable too. And we all did that, whether it was practice, whether it was making sure we was giving effort, putting in extra work. I remember there was times, man, where you would go out there and catch extra balls on a Saturday, and I would go with you. Even though I played D-line, I would go out there too with you. And Vince would go out there, and Kiki and other guys did too. So all that stuff is good, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on to your journey. Thank you, everyone, for tuning into your journey. Be safe, and God bless.
Take care.